Commanders fans, listen up because what's happening in Ashbourne right now is straight up historic. We've got 3 stories shaking the foundation of this franchise, and trust me, after years of watching this team, what's coming is something we never thought we'd see. We're talking about coaching staff moves that will change our offense for good, calls about veteran players that are splitting this fan base, and an offensive line move that's got the whole league talking about the DMV. Do you really think Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are done building this roster? I'm telling you, this is just getting started. Stick with me all the way through because every second of this video is pure burgundy gold. After years of watching this team struggle with mediocre offensive coordinators who had no clue how to squeeze the most out of our talent, we finally got something different. I remember the Scott Turner years, Old Man Turner, coordinators coming in with big talk and ending up being more of the same. But now, with Jaden Daniels coming in as a rookie and doing what he's doing, we needed a coordinator who gets how to protect and develop a young quarterback with that kind of special ability. And here's where it gets interesting, Commanders fans. Cliff Kingsbury didn't just randomly show up in Washington. This guy's got a background in building offenses that unlock mobile quarterbacks. Remember what he did with Kyler Murray in Arizona? First season with the Cardinals back in 2019. Murray threw for more than 3,500 yards and ran for 444. That is exactly the kind of system Jaden Daniels needs to go all in on his potential. And let me tell you something that a lot of people are missing. Hiring Kingsbury isn't just about the here and now. It's about building a long-term offensive identity. When you watch the Commanders' offense this year, you're seeing air raid concepts mixed with modern RPOs, play designs that force defenses to cover the whole field. All Kingsbury. This guy came in with a philosophy that's already changing the way Jaden reads defenses after the snap. And here's the wildest thing about this. Kingsbury came to Washington after spending a year as an analyst at USC working with Caleb Williams. So he's got fresh experience developing the first overall pick in the 2024 draft. And now he's bringing those same lessons to our quarterback. Think it's a coincidence Jaden's playing with so much confidence as a rookie? I'm telling you, Kingsbury is the architect behind that accelerated learning curve. Now, let's talk real numbers because this is where things get technical. Through the first 7 weeks of the season, the Commanders' offense is averaging more than 400 total yards per game. That puts us top 5 in the league. Jaden Daniels is completing over 67% of his passes, with a touchdown-to-interception ratio that's up there with the best rookie seasons in modern NFL history. Who's pulling those strings? Cliff Kingsbury. But here's what really matters for the long run. Kingsbury isn't just passing through as a coordinator. This guy's putting in a system that can last for years. Look at the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. They went through 3 offensive coordinators before they found their identity. We found ours in Jaden's first year. That's fast-track development. That's how winning teams operate. So let me throw this at you. How many times in the last 10 years have the Commanders had an offensive coordinator other teams were itching to steal? I guarantee you, after this season, Kingsbury's name is going to come up in head coaching searches. And that's where Adam Peters has to get smart. We need to make sure this guy stays. You're building with Jaden for at least 3 or 4 more years. Meanwhile, Jerry Jones in Dallas is scrambling to figure out what to do with Mike McCarthy and Doc Prescott in a stale offense. Over here in the DMV, we've got clarity, direction, and a coordinator who understands the modern game. The Eagles paid top dollar to Shane Steichen before he bolted for Indy. We need to learn that lesson. Bringing in Cliff Kingsbury is probably the single most important quarterback development move this organization has made in the last decade. No exaggeration. This is the kind of move that will decide if Jaden Daniels becomes a multi-time Pro Bowler or just another wasted talent buried under bad coaching. And up to now, it looks like we nailed it. I think this is the moment where the Commanders finally realize you can't develop once-in-a-generation quarterbacks with second-rate coaching. You need the best. And Kingsbury, even with his head coach flaws, is one of the sharpest minds in the game today. Period, God, if that surprised you. Wait till you hear this, because what's next is tearing this fan base apart, and believe me, this decision is going to define our season. Now we're hitting a topic I know is going to blow up the comments. And this is the kind of call that separates winning franchises from also-rans. We're talking Curtis Samuel and his future here. Before you start going off in the comments, let me walk you through why we have to talk about this. Curtis Samuel came to DC in 2021 on a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. Back then, it looked like a sweet pickup. A versatile receiver who could line up in the slot, run routes from the backfield, a Swiss Army knife in any modern offense. But here's something a lot of folks don't want to admit. 3 seasons with Washington, and Samuel hasn't broken 600 receiving yards in a full season. And you know what? It's not just about the numbers. It's about the salary cap and smart roster building. Curtis Samuel is currently hitting the cap for nearly $14 million in the 2025 season. $14 million, Commanders fans. That's WR1 or Elite WR2 money. Let me ask you, is Curtis Samuel a WR1 or even a top WR2 at this point in his career? I'm telling you he's not. Now, before you think I'm throwing shade at Curtis, let me be clear. He's a pro, works hard, and sometimes his versatility does pop. But when Adam Peters is trying to put together a roster that can chase Super Bowls, every dollar matters. If we can free up $14 million by cutting or restructuring Samuel, that's money to extend Jaden Daniels down the line, beef up the O-line, or bring in edge rushers who can actually make a difference. Look at what the Eagles did last year. They made tough calls on vets not living up to their contracts. The Giants are in cap hell right now because they were too scared to make the hard cuts. For once in Washington, we finally have a GM in Adam Peters, who's not afraid to make decisions based on numbers and production, not feelings. Let's talk offensive context. With Cliff Kingsbury calling plays, Terry McLaurin is having one of his best runs. Jahan Dotson is on the rise. Tight ends like Logan Thomas are making impact plays. Fact is, in this offense, Curtis Samuel's role has shrunk. Not because he's bad, but we've got better fits for what Kingsbury wants to do. Remember when we cut Brandon Scherf a few seasons back? Fans lost their minds. How do you cut an all-pro? But it was the right cap call. We're staring at a similar situation with Samuel. Sometimes the right move is the tough one. Let me run you through Peters' options. 1. Cut Samuel before the 2025 season and free up almost all of that cap space. 2. Restructure, convert some base salary to signing bonus, spread out the cap hit. 3. Keep him for one more year and reevaluate. What's the right move? I think it all comes down to how this season ends. If the Commanders make a playoff run and Samuel is a big part of it, maybe you restructure and hang on to him. But if we finish with him still putting up so-so numbers for that kind of money, it's time to let him go and use that cash better. That's it. And here's my question for you. Will you keep Curtis Samuel out of loyalty? Or do you want Adam Peters using that $14 million to bring in an elite edge rusher who can help us stop Jalen Hurts twice a year? Because in the NFC East, you have to have a pass rush. Cowboys have Micah Parsons. Eagles have Hassan Reddick. Giants have Kayvon Thibodeau coming into his own. What about us? We've got to spend every dollar wisely to keep pace. While the Cowboys are handcuffed by terrible contracts Jerry Jones signed out of ego, we can be smart about it. The Eagles figured this out when they let go of vets after winning a Super Bowl. Building a winner sometimes means making hard calls at positions where you can get the same production for less. Curtis Samuel is a good player, but he's not untouchable. And in the 2025 draft, with all the picks Adam Peters stacked up through smart trades, we can snag a versatile receiver in the middle rounds who gives you 80% of Samuel's production at 5% of the cost. That's just smart roster math. I'm telling you, the best organizations aren't afraid of tough calls. And if Adam Peters says it's time to move on from Samuel, I trust the man. Because every move he's made so far has brought us closer to being true contenders. This isn't personal, it's business, and it's about the future of this franchise. But you know what? That's nothing compared to what's next. Because this last story could completely flip our offensive line. And when I say flip, I mean people are going to be talking about this for years. Years. Now we're on to what I think is the biggest story of the three. Because without an elite offensive line, nothing else we've talked about matters. You can have Cliff Kingsbury drawing up the sickest plays ever. You can have Jaden Daniels with all-world talent. But if your quarterback's getting blasted every third play, you're not winning a thing. And that, Commanders fans, is why what's happening with our O-line right now is absolutely critical. Let's rewind the clock real quick. Remember the Hogs? Russ Grimm, Joe Jacoby, Jeff Bostic, that legendary O-line that owned the 80s and took this team to Super Bowls. That was the standard. That was Washington's identity back in the day. But ever since those glory days, we've been stuck with decades of O-line mediocrity. Years of turnstile right tackles, guards who can't reach the second level, centers who snap it everywhere but straight. But things shifted the moment Adam Peters walked in. The guy knows it all starts in the trenches. First year as GM, Peters went heavy on the O-line. We brought in vets, drafted young talent, and finally, we've got a line that can hang with anyone in the NFC East. Now, let's get into the specifics. The team's looking at extensions for a bunch of key linemen. We're talking about guys who've proven they can keep Jaden Daniels upright when it matters most. And this is where Peters has to be shrewd, because paying O-linemen in the league is tricky. Overpay, and you end up like the Browns saddled with monster contracts. Underpay, and you lose homegrown talent you spent years developing. Let's talk league context. The average top 10 left tackle is making between $16 and $22 million a year. Elite guards are in the $12 to $18 million range. Quality centers are raking in around $10 to $14 million annually. Those are the real deal market numbers. And Adam Peters has to decide which of our linemen are truly worth paying like that. The crazy thing? For the first time in forever, we actually have linemen worth those numbers. We have guys other teams would kill the poaching free agency if we don't lock them up. It's a luxury problem, but it's one we have to handle smart. Here's my take. If you've got a left tackle who's giving you steady, clean pockets for Jaden Daniels, can handle the best pass rushers in the East, and is in their prime years between 25 and 28, you pay that guy. Left tackle is just too valuable. Look what the Chargers gave Rashawn Slater. Check out what the Jets paid Mekhi Becton before the injuries. That's what the market says. Here's the tricky part. You can't max out everybody. You have to be picky. That means some good players, guys who've helped us out, probably won't get extensions. They'll have to hit free agency. And that's fine, because that's just a business in the NFL. I'm telling you, I'd rather have 3 O-linemen getting paid like stars and fill out the rest with cheap rookies than have 5 linemen earning average money and no cap room for other spots. The Eagles nailed this formula for their Super Bowl team. They paid the tackles, drafted guards, and rotated at center. That's the blueprint. Now let's talk about what this means for Jaden Daniels. A rookie QB behind a rock-solid O-line is 3 times more likely to develop successfully than if they're running for their life every snap. That's straight from NFL studies. Look at Joe Burrow in Cincy. Rookie year, line was a mess, and he got hurt. Next couple years, they fixed the line, and he became an MVP candidate. Direct cause and effect. Here's the question you should be asking. What's Jaden Daniels' health and development worth? If the answer is priceless, then building a stout O-line is non-negotiable. Every dollar we spend keeping Jaden upright is money, well spent for the future of this franchise. Let's see how we stack up in the division. Cowboys used to have the gold standard O-line, but now it's aging. Tyron Smith is out. Guards are slowing down. Eagles threw big bucks at their line, and it shows Hurts is all day back there. Giants? Isley among the league's worst O-lines, Daniel. Jones is getting smoked back there, and his development is just stuck. Where do we want to be in that conversation? I say we want to be with the Eagles, the team other franchises watch on tape and say, wow, their line is nasty, polished, and a real problem. That's what we should shoot for. And the part that fires me up? Adam Peters isn't just thinking about today. He's building a 5 to 7 year contender window. If we lock in the right lineman with the right terms now, we can have an elite O-line all through Jaden Daniels' prime. That's how you win Super Bowls. Not by flashy moves at skill spots, but by dominating the trenches. Picture this. It's 2027, we're deep in the playoffs. Jaden Daniels has a clean 4 seconds in the pocket on 3rd and 8 late in a divisional matchup. Drops a dime for the first down. Why? Because back in 2025, Adam Peters made the right calls paying our O-line. That's vision. That's smart roster building. The contracts we sign this offseason are going to decide whether we're true contenders or just faking it. Based on what I've seen from Peters so far, I trust him to make the right investments. He'll figure out the 2 or 3 guys we absolutely can't lose. Pay them market value and find smarter, cheaper ways to fill the remaining spots. Meanwhile, in Dallas, Jerry Jones is busy trying to out-clever the room with cap moves that never make sense. While here in the DMV, our GM knows what's real. Peters came from San Francisco, saw how the Niners built one of the decade's best lines. He has the recipe. Now he just has to cook it up here. And you know the crazy thing? For the first time in years, we're actually in position to make these moves. For years, the Commanders were buried in cap hell with awful deals left over from past regimes. But Peters cleared all that out. Now we've got flexibility. Now we can pay our best and have room to bring in more talent in free agency. This offensive line news is the biggest of all because it's the foundation for everything. No O-line. Cliff Kingsbury's plan doesn't work. No O-line. Jaden Daniels doesn't grow. No O-line. Terry McLaurin doesn't have time to finish his roots. It all comes back to the trenches. I'm telling you. And I mean this 100%. The O-line contracts we lock up in the next 6 months are going to be the number one factor in whether we win the NFC East over the next 3 years. That's not hype, it's real. And if Adam Peters gets it right, and I believe he will, we're witnessing the beginning of something special in Washington. Commanders fans, after everything we just covered, I've got some direct questions for you. Do you think Cliff Kingsbury should be our offensive coordinator for the next 5 years? Or is he just a stopgap? Does Curtis Samuel deserve another year here? Or is it time to use that cap space in a smarter way? And which O-lineman do you think is the single most important to extend right now? Drop your answers in the comments because I read everyone, and I love seeing how this community thinks about these big calls. Because that's what we are, a community, a family that lives and breathes burgundy and gold. If you're on board with my breakdown of Kingsbury and our offensive future, hit that like button now. If you think I'm nuts and that Curtis Samuel is untradeable, I want to hear from you too in the comments. And if you get why the O-line has to be the top priority, then you need to subscribe to this channel right now. Because every day I'm bringing you deep dive analysis you're not getting anywhere else. We're the most passionate Commanders crew on YouTube, and every one of you is family. So hit that notification bell, because tomorrow I'll have more fire updates about defensive moves that are absolutely going to blow your mind. You can't miss it. And remember, hail to the Redskins.